the natural instinct should be, in whatever way it's going to happen, is that he will institute policies pro-business. We're seeing that with the markets. The markets went up. You're going to see it with real estate and with business, that his policy probably less regulation and allow things to flow.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator. This, of course, is Moshe Popak. I'm Dave Azer. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you so much, Dave, for taking me out of the host seat. I always appreciate it.
All you got to do is just talk about real estate. I'll ask all the questions.
Sure.
You just live free and talk about real estate. So the reason that we're doing this today is because Donald Trump just won election. He's going to be our president again, coming up in a couple of months. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into what that might mean for the real estate market in 2025 and beyond. So we're going to get to a bunch of specific questions, but first, kind of generally, what do you think that his presidency will mean kind of writ large for the real estate market?
Well, I think that we look back, and it might have been because of COVID, but there was something that really benefited the real estate market. Well, first of all, dropping of long-term capital gains. When we have to look back, the way you can know about somebody is you look at their actions. So we look at his the first 4 years, dropping the capital gains rate. So that was one thing, but then also something called accelerated bonus depreciation. So if you own real estate on your tax returns, I talk about this on the show, I've talked about a lot, depreciation. So you can get more losses in accordance with the IRS, with his policies, than were before. So the natural instinct should be, in whatever way it's going to happen, is that he will institute policies pro-business. And we're seeing that with the markets. The markets went up, and you're going to see it with real estate and with business, that his policy probably less regulation and allow things to flow. I mean, it seems that was the number one issue for voters, economy, and they viewed the people that voted, right, America, they viewed that Trump, better or worse, whether you believe it or not, that Trump will be better for people's pocket,
right,
for the economy.
So given the backdrop of that, somebody watching, do you think it's a good time to look into buying a home or buying commercial real estate or buying office buildings? Like, in other words, should we be very bullish? Should people start moving even more into real estate?
I believe I'm going to take the presidential piece out because people don't realize, okay, so there's the president, and then just like the executive branch, right? He has 100 people that he's got to appoint, right? Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, et cetera, and then like thousands of others, like 10,000 people. So like staff, and 4 years is not a lot of time. So you have to dig deeper. And I think of whether it's a piece of real estate or business, no matter who's winning, right? If Kamala won or if Trump won, the time that it takes a federal policy to finally trickle down from the federal level, down to the state, down to the municipality, if let's say it's a piece of property in Miami, right? To finally take effect, it usually takes a while. So what I would rather look at, and I'm a big believer now in buying real estate still, because interest rates have been coming down, but they're not fully down yet. So the way it works is that when interest rates go down, the value of real estate goes up. So the best time still is to buy now, coupled with Trump, who's a real estate guy. I guess that will help somewhat, but the main point is the Federal Reserve cutting rates.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a gray area with regard to how much impact he has on the Federal Reserve. That they're supposed to be wholly independent, but Trump, as the way he talks about everything, I'll take care of it. I'll make it happen. That's who he is, right? For better or for worse. So, how much say, if at all, is he going to have in mortgage rates and things like that?
By the way, I just want to take a pause because it took me a long time to understand central bank, Federal Reserve, what that is. So I just want to give the audience what exactly that is. Federal Reserve, you're thinking, right? I used to think that it's a part of the government. It's completely not a part of the government. It was established a little over 100 years ago as banks came together to support the economy. That's their job. That's their main job. They have other jobs, but that's their main job. Mm-hmm. And so it's, I believe, 12 or 13 different branches throughout the country. And they set interest rates. And interest rates, borrowing costs, is what affects everyday people and their businesses, right? Because if you're paying more in interest or less in interest, and there's less take-home pay or dollars in the pocket to spend on other things. So it's, right, Jerome Powell is the chairman of the Fed, but it's not, the federal government is the executive branch, right? Congress and Senate. I mean, that's Congress and Senate, and then the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. So they're, just because they have the word federal, it has nothing to do with that. I think that there probably are levers that Trump knows to put pressure on the Federal Reserve in the four corners of what's allowed federal government or the executive branch, which is Trump. Yep. I don't know that he has direct ability, right?
But he says he does.
He says he does. Right.
I'll fix it. I'll change it. I'm curious. You've dedicated a major part of your life to real estate. He obviously same from him. What do you think of him as a real estate entrepreneur, real estate investor? His style, his tactics, stuff that you like that he's done, stuff that when he was a private citizen that maybe you didn't like. Just curious what your thoughts on him in real estate.
So I'm gonna bifurcate something here. So there's one side which I really, and I've spoken a lot on the show about, which I really admire. Any human that's able, and we know he's been attacked for a very, very long time. I may agree or disagree with some of his policies and how he is as a human, but just as a core resilience and grit is something to be admired about that piece. A friend of mine told me that he took, in leading up to 2008 crash, he had about $100 million of investors' money that basically he went to these investors and he told them, he said, listen, and he remembered it from his grandfather had told him. He said, your reputation, your name is the most important thing. And he basically lost this money. But he told these guys, he said, listen, I'm going to pay you back. And either you're that person that it's important so you sleep well at night and you truly do the best and you make money last, which I think is really the best place, because now he's telling me now it's 14 years later and what he did for those investors, all this time later, or 16 years later, the people are coming back with open checkbooks, complete trust. You do the right thing now. In the long term, it'll always pay off. Unfortunately, I've met people that claimed, and again, everybody can claim whatever they want, but claimed that there was money owed from construction jobs and he went bankrupt, we know, many times. And they were super mad. Right. Super, super mad. And I don't know what's right or wrong. I'm not there, but in general, my business style would be to try, if you're in business, to try your best to do the right thing. And sometimes you have to take hard decisions, but it's tough.
And one of the things that he's talked about specifically is deregulation with regards to real estate, and also, like, you could speak to this much more eloquently than I could, but permitting. I guess permitting is a real big pain in the butt, and he's talked about mitigating that, making that a less of a big deal.
Yeah, environmental issues, permitting. I know many of my projects, and it literally cost me tens of thousands of dollars, and it could be, I'm just dealing with this, something on the sidewalk, it wasn't the right color. and they were holding up something called the CO, Certificate of Occupancy, meaning that building cannot be occupied until you get the stamp of approval from the municipality, from the city. And it's like months of delay. Again, tens of thousands of dollars. I don't think that should be, right? Because we're trying to grow the economy. We're trying to, the business people are trying to create jobs and trying to get things going. In this case, it was housing for workforce housing for people, and they need it. We're trying to do that. And meanwhile, a little bit of power, and they're sitting there giving a tough time. So if that opens and there's still, a balance of power, let's call it that. I'm a big fan of balance of power, checks and balances. Then I think it could be a good thing. Deregulation could be a good thing.
Yeah, and you're still totally bullish on Florida, South Florida, right?
Oh yeah, very much. Especially now. We'll see who our governor is going to be in 2 years. I think that's super important. We still have 1,000 people moving to Florida every day. Again, I'm still bullish on as far as real estate opportunities and office buildings, and now with Trump in power. I mean, I don't know the dynamic between Governor DeSantis, and Trump right now. I think it could be healthy politically, could be, but I think that I think more and more people are going to move here, and the economy is going to continue to strengthen. Another
thing that he had mentioned that he was going to try and do, and we already talked about it, may not necessarily be in his purview, is getting mortgage rates down again around 3% or even lower. Again, understanding that he may not have much say in that. Do you think how low you think they may get?
I don't see mortgage rates getting to 3. That's like okay, there was a crisis. There was COVID. So the Federal Reserve, to protect the economy, that's their job, they lowered rates so steep, so it went to 3%. My bogey is kind of like that 5%. But rates are probably around 7% now, maybe 6.5, 7. I could see rates going to 5 because I think that's healthy. The hardest thing right now is almost a $36 trillion federal debt payment. Your annual payment is almost $1 trillion. We go up in deficit $1 trillion every 6 months now. It used to be maybe 2 years ago, $1 trillion every year. Now it's a compounding effect.
You say these numbers, and I read these numbers. They don't even seem. It seems like a video game.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem real. Like another trillion.
Yeah. Well, in reality, that's true. I know certain people that work in the federal government, and it was crazy. They were explaining to me that there's certain audits that were being done, and it was like billions missing, or they can't find it. It was, $1 trillion is what, 1,000 billions and a million's 1,000.
Whatever.
And a billion.
Yeah.
It's like gazillion, as Dr. Evil would say.
1 billion trillion dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a totally esoteric, random question that I literally just thought of as you were talking. So bear with me. So, again, talking about Trump and his beginnings, how he started and built his wealth in real estate. What does being a successful real estate entrepreneur, investor, how does that prepare you for an office like the presidency? In other words, what skills do you learn? Because you're in a similar space. What skills do you learn in terms of, difficult negotiations and seeing the best in people and figuring out what works and what doesn't? How does that help build, his brain and his leadership?
I think that it's one piece of it. Again, I did listen to the Joe Rogan podcast.
All 3 hours of it?
All 3 hours of it with interviewing Trump. And he said that first day was surreal because Joe Rogan was asking, how was that first day? I don't think that anything really prepares you, but I think you just deal with it your style. He deals with things his style. It's authentic himself. So yes, negotiating, seeing people, sizing them up, understanding, this is negotiation. He loves that. He loves the art of negotiation. But then civil servants, government, that's hard. if you want to let people go, right? He's always like, you're fired or whatever it is. It's a process in the federal government. It's, and then new people that need to come in, they need to be vetted. It's a whole journey. So it's not instant like in the private sector. Mm-hmm. So I think that definitely certain skills for sure, instincts that you gain, but you need to couple that with having government experience. But I believe they say that every dollar spent by government, we're 1/10 in the private, in the private market. So it's 10 cents. It's 10 cents on the dollar. So I do believe there's tremendous area for efficiency in government. I do believe that.
Well, that's Elon Musk's new position,
right?
Apparently, right?
What they say, they call it DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency.
Doge?
That's DOGE.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Copy of the coin, right? Dogecoin. And he says also, Elon Musk, he said he's not done with his political journey.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
we'll see where that goes.
With the remaining time that we have left, we're getting towards the end of 2024. Just sort of in general for the viewers, for the listeners, give us a couple of things from an real estate investment perspective you'd advise. If one of your kids or a trusted friend was saying, hey, I want to put some money in real estate, what should I do?
Yeah, I mean, I think one side is I think of each dollar, how each dollar, whether in real estate or in business, how it's going to work the best for you. I know it might be a tough bet, but when we're seeing these crazy valuations for stocks, there might be space for pause, because I think that there's areas nothing ever goes straight up. Always remember that. So fine, you can bet on value, right, where it's going to go up, but then there might be place where shorting, maybe shorting certain stocks or betting, certain things will go down. That's overpriced. But then always remember, with real estate, it's very local. I keep using that as a great starting point, and it's hard, but everybody can do it. You find the worst looking property on the best block in a location that you want to be in, and do the work. Everyone thinks real estate is passive. No, it's passive many, many, many years later, and maybe, because I'm still very, very active. And so then you go to Home Depot and you do the work, or you hire the people and you're doing it. That's your job. Right. And if you want to be in real estate, you should love the concept of creating something from nothing and creating value. That's where real estate wealth is created, by doing something that's broken and creating that value.
Yeah, and you've talked about on the show a bunch of times that, there's always going to be a reason not to start, but just do it. Just start.
Yeah. That's what I mean. And everyone says, "Oh, there's such high barrier to entries." No, you'd be surprised. You can go to that rundown house, and the guy's trying to sell it, this and that, and then maybe he'll give you 100% financing. I've seen those. Someone just wants to move out of the city and move somewhere else, and a situation. But if you don't keep asking and being comfortable being told no, then nothing will happen. It'll be a year, 5 years, 10 years, and nothing happens.
Okay.
That's really what it is.
Well, I look forward to doing this again when you're president in, 8, 12, 16 years. Another real estate mogul takes the office. I think it makes sense to me. Thanks, buddy, for letting me do this.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
I know that people love this, but probably have 100 more questions for you, so they should just reach out to you on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yeah. I try to always respond to DMs.
Yeah.
And I always love the questions. It helps me. It's a give and take. When I try to help somebody, I really enjoy it. So hopefully I'm actually helping them think about things differently, and I'm fine-tuning, so it's a win. It's a win all around. So I really enjoy it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see you again next week for another new episode.
Thank you so much, Dave.
All right. Take care, guys. And you heard the man. If you have any more questions, just find Moshe on Instagram or Facebook and ask away. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you again soon.